Hello YouTube, this is Out of the Cave Philosophy, and this is a video that's more on the theological Christian apologetics side of things. I just filmed a video on bees, pollinators, and if veganism is consistent and sustainable. And if you don't know, watch that video where I talk about the necessity of bees to create plant-based food and the death of bees because we use them to produce plant-based food. Bees are necessary for plant-based food being produced, but yet in the process of using them, because of agricultural practices, bees die. So is honey vegan? You can just easily say, is almonds vegan? So watch that video. But this is on the theological apologetic side of things. And for those of you who don't know about apologetics, it's not an apology in the sense of asking forgiveness or saying sorry. Apologetics comes from the Greek word apologia, and it means to give a defense or reasons. And so on my Hisatsu 5 channel, before I created the Out of the Cave Philosophy channel, I posted philosophical and theological content. But I decided to make a separate channel for that content, but I still get traffic on the Hisatsu 5 channel that has that old content on it. And so I had a video on the Black Hebrew Israelites, and not all of them are hardcore, racists and stuff, but the basic belief is that the Africans that were in the transatlantic slave trade are the true Hebrews, and other Hebrews are not the true Hebrews. And there's also some crossover with Hispanics, which doesn't really make sense because they're not involved in the transatlantic slave trade. But Hispanics and Native Americans and Africans that were in the transatlantic slave trade. Some of these people will claim that white people, Arabics, and Asians cannot be saved. They were excluded from salvation. And some of these people are really nasty about it. In fact, they accosted me and my brother and started saying a bunch of hateful, racist, vile things to us. And I decided to have a conversation with them. Unfortunately, I didn't have my camera, so I didn't record it. And honestly, I was a little bit afraid to pull my phone out because I didn't know if they would break my phone. That was how hostile they were. But I stayed and talked to them. And I made a video talking about my experience on the way home from Houston. This was at the Galleria in Houston, and me and my brother, who just got back from a Open Bible Academy graduation, were walking into the Galleria, and these young men stopped us and said, "Hey, do y'all believe in Jesus?" We turned and said, "Yes, we do." They said, "What color is Jesus?" I said, "Well, he was definitely not white." And so that was how the conversation got started. But they have failed to prove that the Hebrews are actually black. And keep in mind, they don't include black people from Africa that weren't involved in the slave trade. It's only those who were brought over in the transatlantic slave trade that are the Hebrews, even though the Islamic State enslaved blacks way before America was ever thought of. And I know I'm getting on the tangent, and I'm at 6 minutes already, but this is the content that I want to talk about right here. On the Black Hebrew Israelite video on Hisatsu 5, this guy left a comment, and he left a few comments, and it's hard for me to determine what his worldview is, but one of his comments actually seemed to lean more to Islamic. He said, "Jesus never was a Christian. Jesus is a Muslim. If you simply understood what the word Muslim meant, you would have no choice to agree." So I'm assuming that he's Muslim because he's trying to suggest that Jesus was a Muslim, not Christian, which I would agree with him on that, but more on that later. But It was weird. Some of the other comments he left seemed to be more Hebrew Israelite, but I'm assuming he was just commenting on the black Hebrew Israelites and just kind of throwing his hat in the ring, even though it seemed like he might have been pro them. Muslims are definitely not pro Israel, but I don't know. It was a weird conversation that he started, but then he did the Jesus never was Christian, he was Muslim thing. So I'm assuming he's Muslim. And so this is my response, and I want to talk about this because this is very important. One of the key differences between Islam and Christianity is what we do with Jesus. In Christianity, Jesus is God. In Islam, he is a prophet and nothing more. So I want to read what I said, and I want to talk about it a little bit. And I might not read the whole thing because it's a big paragraph, and it might be easier for me to paraphrase. But I want to at least, I'll read it. Let's see what happens. I said, Salam, which means peace in Arabic. I actually studied Islam a little and read some of Sahih al-Bukhari and the Quran, which is true. I have not finished the majority of Sahih al-Bukhari, but I am somewhat familiar with it, and I have 2 Qurans. Actually, I have one completely self-contained Quran with Christian commentary. Then I got a 3-set volume of the Quran with Islamic commentary. But anyways, I said, you're right. Jesus never called himself a Christian. Some of that might shock some of you. And I said, in the Bible Jesus, you're right. Jesus never called himself a Christian in the Bible or the Quran. But that's irrelevant because the word Christian was invented after the crucifixion and the resurrection and Jesus' ascension into heaven. But after the crucifixion and given to his followers in Antioch. Read about this in Acts. Keep in mind, before Christians were called Christians, the followers were called the followers of the way, or the followers followed the way, because Jesus is the way to salvation. So they were just followers of the way. But in Antioch, which I think is in modern-day Turkey, they started calling them Christians. And that's where we get the word Christian today. And more on what Christian comes from later. That said, in Antioch, Jesus himself, see Acts, the book of Acts. What Jesus did refer to himself is the Messiah. The Greek word for this is Christ. So, Messiah, anointed one, is or you can kind of describe anointed one as chosen one. I hate to make that comparison, but if it helps you, use it. But the word Messiah in Greek is Christ. So he referred to himself as Messiah and as God and receiving worship. This is why religious leaders wanted to crucify him. He was committing blasphemy and equating himself with God. Now, I kind of regret leaving this comment because it implies polytheism, and I left a follow-up comment after this post to kind of clear that up. But I said, in Islam, this is called shirk. Now, depending on how you're going to define shirk can be polytheism, but the majority of the times that I hear the word shirk being used, and it's referred to Jesus, is in the Quran. Jesus completely denies his divinity, and this concept of Jesus being divine in Christianity is called shirk. And Muslims equate it to polytheism, but Christians don't. That we believe in monotheism too. We just have the doctrine of the Trinity. But just to kind of clarify things, the reason why the religious leaders wanted to kill Jesus was because he was equating him with God. And usually when people refer to shirk, they say that's making yourself partners with God or Allah. So that's why I used it, because the majority of the time people are describing shirk, they're describing it as making yourself a partner with God, someone that's kind of co-equal with him, but not him. So That shirk is partnership with God on a divine level. So I said, Jesus was a Torah-observant Jew, son of the Blessed One, Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led to his presence. He was given authority and glory and sovereign power. All nations and people of every language worshipped him. His dominion is everlasting dominion that will never pass, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. That's actually a Bible quote from Daniel. And so why is this Bible quote important? Well, first off, if you're a black Hebrew Israelite that believes that only blacks, Native Americans, and Hispanics, I think I got everybody on that list, are the only ones that can be saved, and that whites, the real Hebrews, and Arabics and Asians are going to be condemned. This refutes that. You cannot call yourself a Hebrew and say that Daniel was wrong. He is very highly thought of in Judaism, and he made it into the prophets. Anyways, other than that, a lot of Muslims will read the Gospels and they hear Jesus refer to himself, Son of Man, Son of Man, Son of Man. They will say, ha ha, see, Jesus never claims to be God, he claims to be Son of Man, Son of Mary. And although they believe that Mary conceived or through the Allah spirit, I'm going to call it, I don't know quite how else to call it. We would say the Holy Spirit, but they believe that Allah sent his spirit to Mary, and if I remember that correctly, I don't have my Quran with me, which is weird because that would also imply possibly Trinity in Islam, but never mind. But back to the subject. Jesus refers to himself Son of Man, Son of Man, Son of Man, and if you're a Jew, Hebrew person in the first century, when you hear Son of Man, you're going to automatically go to Daniel. In fact, the Pharisees, I think, asked Jesus, "Are you the Son of the Blessed One?" He says, pretty much, "Yes, I am the Son of Man coming on the at the right hand of the power, coming down on the clouds with glory." And they tear their clothes and they say, "Have you seen this blasphemy? He deserves to die." So that's why it's important to read Daniel and not just the Gospels, and not just take Son of Man at a Islamic face value. You have to know what Jesus is referring to. And so when Jesus says, "I'm the Son of Man coming on the clouds of glory at the right hand of the power," he is making a divine statement of his identity. Back to my comment, I said this is the true identity of Jesus. Jesus the Christ, another word for Messiah, the Redeemer, God incarnate. So I could probably close the video right there, and you would understand what I'm getting at. Jesus never claimed to be a Christian because he is God. He is not a follower of himself. He is, and by the way, let me go ahead and read what I said about the Trinity, because some of you may be confused, and the Trinity is confusing to a lot of people. But I said, by the way, this could only be understood through the doctrine of the Trinity. Think of it as three who's in one what. Three who's, three persons in one God. And I know it's difficult to comprehend, but I actually know an atheist, or watched an atheist say that the Trinity was easy. And a lot of people are like, whoa, the atheist says the Trinity is easy to comprehend. When a lot of Christians have problems with it. Not problems agreeing with it, but problems comprehending it. It's a mystery. So, That's why I didn't want to. I regret using the word shark, because shark implies polytheism, but Christians don't believe in polytheism. We believe in the Trinity. And if you go back in the Old Testament, there was hints and glimpses at the Trinity before the New Testament comes and is written down. That might be for a separate video. But that's the main point I want to make. When Jesus says Son of Man, a man, he is referring to the vision of Daniel, and Daniel is a very highly thought of prophet that is quoted in the New Testament. But he's also mentioned in other places in the Old Testament. So anyways, Son of Man is a divine title. And when God refers to himself, Jesus, who is God, refers to himself as Son of the Man, coming in at the right hand of the power, on the clouds with glory and authority and sovereignty. That debunks the myth that Jesus never claimed to be God. It debunks the myth that only Hebrews can be saved. And it's just very rich, very important details to know. So this video is 16 minutes long, going on 17 minutes. I've probably talked too much right now. I wanted to talk to you about that because I think it's really cool stuff to know, and it's very important to share with others. Also, this is just an extra factoid. The sources for Jesus' life come within the first century of his life. The Quran is roughly 600-700 years after Jesus. So a lot of Muslims will say that the Quran is the true Word of God and is more accurate about Jesus than the Bible. But unfortunately, the Quran affirms the preservation and authority of the Bible. I'm going to pull this up. We got Surah 5:47, and like the followers of the Injil is gospel in Arabic, have judged by what Allah has revealed, and whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, those are the transgressors. Quran Surah 3, verse 3 through 4 also affirms the Bible. Surah 18:27. I said I didn't have the Quran. These are in my notes, not in the Quran that I personally own and highlighted. And recite what has been revealed to you in the book of your Lord. There is none who can change his words, and you shall not find any refuge besides him. So that verse says that anything that Allah has revealed, the Injil, the Torah, the Quran, cannot be changed. Doesn't matter what the Muslim scholar says in the Quran, no one can change Allah's words. They are everlasting to everlasting. They pre-existed before the world existed. Say to them, people of the book, you have no solid ground to stand on unless you establish the Torah and the Gospel and all those who had been revealed to you from your Lord. So yes, according to Islam, the Bible, the Jewish Christian Bible, is 100% authoritative and preserved, no matter what Yasser Qadi or Muhammad Hijab or Ali Dawah say. So, interesting stuff. I'm out of the Cave Philosophy, and I'm out.